Hello, and thank you so much for joining me here in beautiful Liberia today for a thought from the Bible. So I've been recording these videos every Wednesday this year, and we have been following along with this amazing adventure with a man called Moses and the Israelite people. We have followed their slightly epic journey out of Egypt into the wilderness to Mount Sinai, getting to the promised land, leaving the promised land, wandering through the wilderness. And now finally, we find them back on the border of this land that God has promised to the people, and they are waiting to enter in. But there's one little catch. See, God had told Moses earlier that he would not be able to enter that land of promise. Now, when they get there, Moses, he starts pleading with God. We read this in Deuteronomy chapter 3. "O sovereign Lord, you have only begun to show your greatness and the strength of your hand to me, your servant. Is there any God in heaven or on earth who can perform such great and mighty deeds as you do? Please, let me cross the Jordan to see the wonderful land on the other side, the beautiful hill country and the Lebanon mountains. Please." Moses is pleading with God, but God says no. Instead, he tells Moses to climb up to a peak and look around him at the land of promise, the land that he would never, ever get to step foot on. Now, Moses was disappointed, especially so, I think, because it was kind of self-inflicted, the reason why he was at this point. But I think he was justifiably disappointed when you think that this land that he could see, that he could almost reach out and touch, but not quite, this land was the fulfillment of generations of promises. It was something that the whole nation of Israel had longed for, something that their hopes were absolutely set on. It was something that Moses must have imagined all the way back in that journey when he was a much younger man standing by a burning bush and hearing God tell him that he was to deliver the people out of Egypt and lead them to this promised land. I wonder if he had been imagining since that moment, what will it be like to step foot into this land that God has specifically chosen for his people, for me. Now he's being told, "Sorry, Moses, that's not for you." I think it would have felt heartbreaking. And there's no wonder that he goes back to God and he's desperate and he says, "Please, please, please, won't you let me in?" Because suddenly the dream is over. Suddenly that thing that you wanted more than anything else in your life, it's not going to happen. That's a tough realization to have, for sure, and it's definitely something that we can face. We may have an idea or a dream that we are desperate to see fulfilled. You know, I always think in the UK, we have these wonderful buildings called cathedrals, these enormous stone structures that were created for the worship of God. And those structures often took decades, tens of years, even centuries, hundreds of years to build. The person who designed those buildings, the person who laid the foundations, who put those first stones down on the ground, they knew that they would never, ever get to see that work finished. They knew they would never see that beautiful structure built in all of its glory. So wouldn't it just be easier not to start? Yeah, I'm not gonna enjoy the benefits, so why would I even make the plans? I'm not gonna see the promised land, so Why don't I just give up on that dream in the wilderness? We may have a choice a bit like that at some point in our lives. Do we continue pushing on with something, not knowing if we'll ever see a positive outcome? Do we share our faith with someone, not knowing if they'll ever respond? Do we show kindness to someone, not knowing how that's going to impact them? When God told Moses that he wasn't going to enter into that place of promise, he also gave him this instruction. He said, instead, commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead the people across the Jordan. He will give them the land you now see before you as their possession. In other words, your part's not over, Moses. It's time to put down that disappointment and instead encourage somebody else to take up the mantle. It's time to invest in someone who will stand on what you have achieved and reach even higher. I just love that. When it looks like the thing that we hoped for isn't going to happen, do we just give up? Or do we say, okay, fine, I may not see it. I may not see the thing that I was hoping for, but I'm going to give all that I have to help somebody else to reach that place of promise. It's really easy, I think, for us to be caught up in what we can see. We like to see results, right? We like to see some visible evidence of success. We like to know that we've done well, that that thing that we've worked towards was worth it, that it was successful. But God's measure of success is so very different to ours. All we see is this tiny little piece of the puzzle, but he sees the entire beautiful picture. Following after him, following his instruction, building for something bigger than us. That is what it's all about, regardless of what tangible results we may see here and now. So I think it's so exciting to think about what God could do with all that we can offer in the generations to come if we can put down that thought that it's all about us and all about what we can achieve and all about the success that we see, and instead recognize that our lives are all about him. Our disappointment may sting for a while. It's true, we're human. But we can look beyond it and we can cheer people on as they walk into all that God has in store for them. So work hard today at that dream, whether or not you'll see the fulfillment of it, and have that conversation and do that act of kindness. Because even if you don't see the result, God has a plan and he is working through you in it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be back on Wednesday next week with another thought from the Bible, so I will see you then.